Okay. So today, stop talking. Today I'm going to talk about just some suggestions or ways you can adapt, adjust any kind of project you do. And I know a lot of you already do some really cool projects that work towards different strengths of students anyways, but yeah, just kind of going over some basic ways to change it. So most kids that we see here, you don't have to reduce the quality of the project. You just need to maybe reduce like one or two things. So most of the kids, when you set the expectation, should be able to meet it. We don't have too many students here that can't meet the expectation if you set it. So maybe they just don't have to complete like one or two tasks because it takes them too long, or it's just something simple as that. Extended time, that's a common one that we see even in people's paperwork. Just giving them an extra day, like if you sign it on Monday, it's due Friday, allow them to turn it in like the following Monday to give them over the weekend. It's a really easy one. Chunking, you've probably heard this several times. You know, if you have something that you give some kind of project, and some kids, so you give a lot of directions all at once, they don't even know where to start. We get that a lot even as adults, where we have so many tasks to complete, you don't know where to start. It's the same thing. They get all this information at once and they're like, well, where do I even begin? They probably know the information, but just don't know how to get it out of their head. So having something due by a specific date, so saying like, okay, this needs to be done by tomorrow or by the end of the week, and then we'll go on to the next section. Or providing a timeline with dates or whatever that need to be done can help too. I know that it's middle school and we need to kind of get them to be more independent, but sometimes having even a checklist to go through and check off something can be super, super helpful. Multiple choices. So like I know you have multiple choices a lot when you do your like reading projects where they can make a poster or write an essay or whatever. It can be work in individuals or with groups. Like you could have them decide if they want to create a poster or presentation versus, I don't know, whatever else you want to give them. It kind of gives some buy-in, allows the students to be creative. I mean, it kind of plays to the strengths of the students that struggle a lot of the time. So a choice board. A lot of this, I've used a choice board. I'll give an example at the end that I use with some of my kids. It's just basically like having different projects they can complete. So instead of just saying like, you decide what you want to do, it's like specific things that they can pick from. So it gives them a little bit of structure, but then also like a bunch of choices. And maybe if you expect them to complete so many things, they only have to pick like 4 out of the 5, or you know, if the rest of the class has to do 6, they only have to do 5. As I kind of mentioned this earlier, like giving a checklist of like, here's all the steps that we went over today. So like all of these things need to be complete by the end of, or the deadline for the project, so they can just like cross it out or checklist it or whatever. I know I do that. I post a note, I checklist. You know, there's even a Google app for that. You can literally create checklists, and then when you click the like checked button, it like goes down to the bottom of the list, so it like disappears. Really? It's pretty awesome, yeah. So that's super helpful. Anything that's hands-on, like I'm standing up here even just playing with this. You know what I mean? If you can allow them to like work on something while they're working in class, I don't know what they do with the project, but if they can sit and play with something, a lot of the time they'll pay attention to what you're saying. I can think of a couple kids off the top of my head that I've used this already with and am amazed by how much they get done in one class period because they can sit and throw this or squish it. It's crazy. And, but yeah, I mean, creating anything physical, so like building something. I mean, I have had several times that I've talked to some of you about like certain kids, and I'm like, I had them draw this picture, or I had them like build this bridge, and again, was amazed by how much they were able to do, and I didn't think they could do it because I allowed them to build instead of write an essay. A presentation. I'll explain some of this later on a different slide, but allowing them to maybe like videotape themselves instead of presenting in class. So like they make a video like I'm kind of doing now, and they can play it in front of class to get graded if you are having them present their poster or their PowerPoint or whatever. Or allowing them to come in like before or after school if they just don't want to present it in front of all their classmates because of stage fright or nerves or whatever. Flipgrid is a cool example of this that you could have them do. I will show an example of that later. It's essentially just like they can, it's an app on their phones or on the computer that they can videotape themselves like describing something, and they can add some like little characters in it and stuff, and then it's just kind of similar to like social media, where then it gets posted into the class and everybody can go in and like comment or like it or share it or whatever, and you can also then put a grade on it through the website. So the next slide says this physical example. So anytime that I give a project, I always like show something that I made so they have reference to what they like, what the end goal should somewhat look like. Or use an example of a previous student. So like if you have them doing a one-pager, or having them do like a poster, or having them even like do some lab experiment, like showing them different examples that have been created, or doing the lab kind of as a mini example before they have to do it on their own. Another example is having checkpoints. I kind of mentioned this earlier, so having them, this is a little bit different, but so maybe like when you have them silent read, or when you're having them do some kind of like bell ringer activity, you make them pull out the project and you go through and just see if they even have anything done. So you're checking in to see like, oh, that they've gotten this far in the project, and then maybe say like, hey, maybe then you know, and you can pull them aside later and say, hey, this, you better get working on this, or this needs to get done for me tomorrow, or else you're not going to get this done. Again, just a suggestion that has worked for me a few times, being able to pull kids in and say, hey, why don't you just sit down and get this done in study hall, since you haven't started on it yet. Giving one-step directions. This seems so simple, but you know, even giving one direction and then going through that one thing, and then having them work on it for a minute, and then moving on to the next direction of the project, letting them kind of hash it out, and then moving on to the next step of the project, letting them work on it a little bit. Again, some students just need you to say it, simple, straightforward, allow them to like process, and then you can move on to the next step. Rephrasing directions, again, most of you probably do this numerous times, but rephrasing, repeating directions like multiple days in a row kind of triggers that memory of, I can't remember how many times I've been told time and time again, and if somebody wouldn't have reminded me the 400,000th time, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I know that just seems redundant to repeat yourself, because it is, but some kids literally will not remember. Just like a suggestion, maybe doing some kind of group and individual work together where an individual like affects the whole group. We kind of talked about this with some of the stuff at the last presentation, but having like a student work in pairs or by themselves on one part of a project that then feeds into like a bigger project. So maybe it's a one-pager, but then the one-pager like affects a bigger poster. So they're all doing the same thing, but then, you know, they're only working on one aspect of whatever story you're reading. Or they're working on like why the sound affects plants, and this person why the sound affects animals, and why this, you know what I mean? So it affects the bigger idea. And maybe even doing it in pairs. So like one kid has to work with another kid on that specific topic, which then feeds into like the overarching thing. I don't get to do that because I only have 3 kids at a time, so, but I've seen this work a couple times, like in different situations, so just a suggestion. This was some of the examples that I had. So 6th graders do Bridge to Terabithia and reading, and so this is like what I was talking about with the choice board. This is what I give some of my kids, where they have to pick 3 examples, so like the boxes have to connect. So they can pick like across, down, or like diagonal. And so a lot of it is, a couple of examples are like writing an essay, or doing a Venn diagram, or building a bridge, or pulling out different examples to explain your favorite passage. Or it's like this bottom one I thought was kind of cool. It's like building, they have to they don't actually build a bridge, but they build a bridge to different things in their life. So like, how can you build bridges to create, connections in your life, kind of thing. So connecting to different aspects. They have to pick 3, and it kind of reaches different things. So you're making them write, build, and draw, or write, build, and act, or different things like that. So it's kind of challenging them. It's hitting a lot of different points. And again, sometimes I'll even make kids do extra or less if I know that they physically just can't do it. Does this make sense?
Is that one that you introduce at the beginning with the book and they're working on it during, or is it like the culminating, okay, we finished the book, now you need to do these?
It depends on the class.
Okay.
So last year I think I started it at the beginning of the book, and I then let the students pick one to work on during class for a day, so that it wasn't oh my gosh, I have to do all 3 of these right now.
Right.
So again, it depends on the class. Some classes, and you know them probably better than I would if I walked in there right now. Some classes you could hand them the sheet and say, get working. In other classes you would probably have to say, okay, pick the first project you're going to do, and it's going to be due at the end of the week.
Okay.
And then, pick the next one, and this one's going to be due the end of next week.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's really up to you. Again, you know your students, especially at this point in the school year. This is a reading example. I mean, you could really do it for anything. You could take a social studies chapter and do a lot of the same things. You could make them write a letter as if they were a character out of the textbook. You could have them compare and contrast 2 characters or 2 people in the section. Or you could have them, compare and contrast diagrams versus chains. There's lots of different things you can do with this, which is nice. And this is in Google Docs, so and I will share this with you if you want it. You can make a copy and edit it as you would like. It's also super simple just to add a chart with 9 squares in it. I mean, all right, and the other example that I had on here is what I talked about. It says Flipgrid. This is going to be very young one Caden. So this is what it looks like when you sign in with it. You can log in with Google, so I just use my email account through here. And so it pulls up like this, and it's my grids, and then I have different classrooms. It'll let me drag down. I haven't used any this year, which is sad because my kids are all over the place. But so this is what a classroom looks like, and all of the videos will show up down here. So I can create a video, so I can add a new topic. And then it's topic title. You can adjust how long you want it to be. So it goes from anywhere from 15 seconds of how much can you get out in 15 seconds, or you can spend 5 minutes demonstrating something. And then the prompt, so what the directions are, what you want them to do. So the whole point of this is for them to videotape themselves doing something. So it's like an essay, presentation, whatever. You can add stuff to it, whatever. It's pretty cool. Let's see if I can, my activity, I don't want to actually create one right now.
I like how quick can you explain, a term
Yes.
or a literary concept or that sort of thing.
Yes, so this is, a lot of these are Caden, and this is how they come up. So he can add actual little emojis and stuff to his videos or whoever, because I had Caden a lot last year. So I did it with different math things where they had to demonstrate a math problem, how they got the answer. I did it as an introduction, so they had to introduce themselves to me, just a simple what's your name, what grade are you in, simple as that. Let's see, I can probably play one of these, which one is good. I mean, so I don't remember all the parameters. I had already logged in.
No.
What do they do? That's me talking to them. This isn't probably the best one. I don't know why I didn't go to. Okay. Let's go to dashboard 2. I just want my page. That's me. That's my little profile emoji guy. Hybrids. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, so I want this. So this is a book that we read, and Cadence is actually really cute.
What is it? You guys been back with our video? I am here with the book. The boy who works back. And this is basically about a boy that makes someone new, and he goes through the drought and all that. And yeah, I'm gonna tell you 3 bad and good things that happen for it.
So he gives like a minute and a half to talk about the book, and at the end it's actually really funny. He's like, he goes, thanks for watching, you know, gives his YouTube handle and says like and subscribe underneath or whatever, so it's actually really funny. But anyways, on here you can like give them points for different things, you can give feedback, you can like give a little heart like you would on Facebook or whatever. It shows like how many views they have, whatever, post dates it, all that kind of fun stuff. And then you can also give them like little fire emoji things and fun stuff. So if it's posted in the classroom, anybody can go in and see it. I think there is a restrictive view, so like only you could watch it instead of like the whole class, or like you could only give comments, and so that other people could watch it and give them little like buttons, but they couldn't do anything else.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this is super fun if you have the time and it doesn't get too loud in your room, or just to assign like at home for them to do. My kids love doing this.
Now, are they doing that off of a cell phone?
They
Or
can. I have the app
or
on my
like
phone.
for them?
So like, I've done it on Chromebooks because I have these like fancy headphones that have the mics on them.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's how I've done it a couple times. That video is him on just a Chromebook, like sitting and talking into the Chromebook.
Okay.
There's also an app that looks like, if I can find it on here.
So like if we gave them an
This.
assignment for at home, they would
Yeah.
just need
It's a
the
little
app.
green plus. Yeah,
Okay.
they would just need the green plus, and it pops up, and then it just says like join a grid or whatever. You give them like the code.
Okay.
It's kind of like another classroom.
Yeah. Or they can scan a QR code, I guess, that's new. But yeah, so they literally can just enter in there whatever time they get. I usually expect my kids to use like most of the time, so if they give a minute and a half, I expect them to use at least like a minute of the time
Yeah.
to meet whatever the question is.
That would be kind of fun in small groups. You wouldn't want like a table of 5. 'Cause
Right.
then you know what would happen. 3 people would talk and the
Yeah.
other 2 would take up space. But
Absolutely.
like if you have like a team of 2, you know,
Yeah.
that could talk about the Lincoln Douglas debate, or you know what I mean? One
Yeah.
could be Lincoln, one could be you know, that could be kind of cool.
Or like a news anchor kind of thing, like for any kind of project, you could have them do it for that.
Introduce someone. Or,
Yeah, or just say like on the news, like so-and-so, you know, discovered how to, I don't know, use a sundial.
Mhm.
What, you know what I mean? Or it could be part of a project, so they could do a Flipgrid as a summary instead of having to write an essay. Because like I said, one of the options is up to 5 minutes, so if you wanted somebody to have to like actually go in depth on something or interview, whatever. Again, it's pretty fun. I enjoy it.
Cool.
If you ever want to use the headphones, I have 5 sets of them, so. Are there any questions? I mean, that's pretty much all I got, just some simple suggestions.
Yeah.
So, short and easy, but
Very cool.
yeah.